Connecting everything together, final X-ray. Here's the full system including props, components, DOM, CSS. First, browser loads index.html. Second, browser creates DOM with the root. So it creates the DOM that needed for that index.html. Then third, CSS is loaded. So CS sum created, kind of like the tree for CSS. The layout, the paint. So we need a layout first, which is the HTML. Then we load the CSS, which is the paint. So even that small index.html needs a paint already. So some of the paint needed for that initial index.html will be loaded as well. Then fourth, JS bundle runs. So the V6 engine runs it immediately. So kind of like an interpreter. It parse the tree of the code of that code and then run that in the V8 engine, not yet contacting the node of the browser. Then fifth, create root. React DOM root created. So in that V8 engine that was Vandal, first of course you need a root for that React application. So a React DOM, the library will create a React root. Then 6, JSX greeting becomes it will become a create user element, and then it will create a element, and then the create React DOM check the difference between them, and then before contacting the browser node to actually change the UI in the screen. So list in React. When working with data in JavaScript, most often the data comes as an array of objects. Therefore, we will learn how to render a list of items in React next. So when we are working with data, kind of like a state being defined inside an statement. So whenever we're like creating a variable and then semicolon in JavaScript, what we're actually creating is a data. So we're holding that data when we're creating a variable a variable, and usually that data in React is actually an array of objects. So it's a complex type of a complex data type rather than a simple primitive data type. Therefore, we will learn how to render a list of items in React. So that list of items can be an array, or that items could be an objects, and that list could represent an array. That's why an array of objects. In order to prepare you for rendering list in React, let's recap one of the most common data manipulation methods, the arrays built-in map method. So the map method are the most common when we're dealing with those type of data type combinations, such as objects, list of objects within array. And that operation or method is the built-in map method of JavaScript. It is used to iterate over each item of a list in order to return a new version of each item. So it iterate each objects in that array and then return a new version of each objects from that array. In React, the arrays built-in map method is used to transform a list of items into JSX by returning JSX for each item. So in React, when we have an array of objects, what we do is instead of a JavaScript object that we are iterating, we're transforming a list or an array of objects that was written in JSX and then returning a new version of each of that object in that array as a JSX as well. So in the following, we want to display a list of items, here JavaScript objects in React. So again, in this following example, we want to display a list of items, which again, that items is just a JavaScript objects. In JavaScript, the map method of array declared before it is called creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. So let me just repeat this. So in JavaScript, the map method of array declared. So if we already declare an array and then the map method of that is called, it creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. So we're technically applying function on each of that array and then returning a new version of array with the new objects to the new array. JavaScript demo array.prototype.map. So const array equals to array 1, 4, 9, 16, so all number. Now this is the function that we will use to map in each of those number primitive type. So const map, so we declare a map variable is equals to array that map. So this map constitute so array that map. So this is the function that we will pass to the map. Array that map parameter x arrow function x times 2. So basically we multiply each of this x or each of the elements in this array that we defined and multiply that by 2, so that the function that is the function that will be executed in each of these individual index. Now console.log map it equals to 2, 8, 18, 30, 32. Now syntax map callback fn. So here map and then the callback function or the function that will be executed in each index. Map callback fn comma this arg. So this arg, since we're using React, we can just ignore this. Parameters callback fn, a function to execute for each element in the array. Its return value is added as a single element in the new array. The function is called with the following arguments. Element, the current element being processed in the array. Index, the index of the current element being processed in the array. And the array map was called upon. So the array is here. The array, we call the array, and then the function so the function is the map, and its parameter is the x, which is the index here, the index of the current element being processed, and then the array name. So the array name will be on the left side of that function, kind of like not intuitive, because usually when you have parameter, that's on the right side of the map. This arg, a value to use as this when executing a callback fn, see in iterative methods, return value, a new value with each element being the result of the callback function. So here, what we do here is that we created a statement, like as I said, each semicolon, a variable with a semicolon in the end hold the state, and that state is a statement, from the word statement, state. So that state return a new value or a new array with each element being the result of the callback function. That's why when we console.log, we see this output value, because that was returned by this statement. What this note really means in plain logic, the note is saying data array, transform it, turn it into UI JSX, React shows it. So instead of thinking React list, think the core pipeline. Array of data, then a map function, then to JSX elements, to React renders, to DOM updates. So this is related to how we turn a JSX int and then return a JSX that turn into a React renders, which is a React DOM, and then a DOM updates. So that's how it used the map method, or to convert that array of objects into a list that we can see in the browser. Step by step mental model, very important. First, data comes as an array. Const users equals to object literal. So this is an array with two objects. First object, a member name with a value Garrett. Second object, a member name with a value John. Then closing array, semicolon. So this create a statement again. This is just JavaScript in memory, heap. So this statement are a heap in memory, nothing to do with DOM yet. Now map, transform data to new data. So const name equal users that map user arrow function user that name. So these users, you can change this users, as a name of, that's the name of the array. But as we can see earlier, we use an x here as a parameter, right? And then x times name, because x, that's the index we're trying to, or that's just we're just dealing with a primitive data type. But when we're dealing with objects, this is how we would write it. So with that, this will output Garrett and John. Better yet, we can actually create this in a JavaScript code editor. Key idea, map does not touch the DOM. It just creates a new array in memory. So the map does not touch the DOM yet. It just creates a new array or a new object or a statement that holds the state or the value of that new array that was turned using the functions you execute in each of those individual index. So it just creates a new array in memory. Later we will execute this in the browser for you to see. In React, map returns JSX. So again, that map returns JSX, which just does that JSX just bundled to JavaScript and then interact with the DOM. So here const list equal users that map user arrow function li user that name and then li. So output conceptually React element comma. So it's an array with the React element first and then comma React element. So instead of doing that in a JavaScript as a value, we're doing that as a in React element as a UI thing. Important, this is not HTML yet, this is not DOM yet, this is React Elements, objects in memory. So let's now execute that in the browser. Okay, let's do this, guys. JavaScript. Now, let's interpret the shit out of that. Just kidding, guys. Oh my god. Cons users equal name string Gareth closing comma name string John. Oh god. Names equal users that map user arrow user that name. So as you can see, we're just accessing objects here. When we run this, syntax error, guys. Const name, what are the syntax error? Invalid or unexpected token. Name Gareth. Oh, so as you can see, guys, I forgot that. Program did not output anything. Well, the reason why is because we did not console.log the names, right? See, Garrett and Jan. So that is the pattern for accessing that an object. So that's different with a primitive data type.